This is 6 Minutes, the Seriously International Newscast. It's Tuesday, March 4th. I'm Emma Albright.
And I'm Bertrand. It's early in sunny Paraguay, while a rainy evening is forecast in Bhutan. We've got both clouds and sun here outside the Welcome newsroom in Paris, where it's just after midday. These are the latest headlines. Trump pauses all US military aid to Ukraine. Trade wars are launched as the US hits Canada, Mexico, China with tariffs. And our daily quiz question comes from a runway in Florida. The Trump administration announced it is pausing all military aid to Ukraine today, following 3 years in which the US has approved $175 billion in assistance to the country. Europe is ready to step up on defense. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said on Tuesday, as she outlined plans to mobilize close to 800 billion euros of defense spending. Meanwhile, US Vice President J.D. Vance says the door is open for Ukraine to return to negotiations if Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is willing to seriously talk peace.
U.S. President Donald Trump's new 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada took effect on Tuesday, along with a doubling of duties on Chinese goods to 20%, launching new trade clashes with America's biggest trading partners. The tariffs took effect at midnight, Washington time, causing markets across the globe to tumble. Meanwhile, China has said that it will fight to the bitter end if the U.S. continues its trade actions, while Ontario's head of government, Doug Ford, has threatened electricity restrictions to the United States. Arab leaders are meeting in Cairo today, with Egypt set to present a plan for Gaza that would sideline Hamas and create interim bodies run by Arab, Muslim, and Western states. The proposal is designed in contrast to President Trump's idea of expelling all Palestinians and building a Middle East Riviera.
A new study showed that over half of the world's population, or at least 3.8 billion adults, will be overweight or obese in the next 15 years, barring government action. The study, published in the scientific journal The Lancet, also said that around 1/3 of children and young people would also be affected during the same period. The research, which used data from 204 countries, pointed to global failures in the response to a rise in obesity and urged for a political solution to the problem. Now, let's take a closer look at what the international press is covering.
Trump presses the button, headlined Mexican economic daily El Economista, referring to 25% tariffs the U.S. is imposing today on all Mexican and Canadian goods, following a one-month delay after initial tariffs threats in February. German daily Die Welt is covering the car that rammed into a crowd in Mannheim, killing 2 people. Police arrested the car's driver and later said he had acted alone, with no broader threat seen for the public.
The North African press is covering the dozens of Tunisian opposition figures who are going on trial today on national security charges, having been accused of belonging to a terrorist group and plotting against the state's security. The 40 high-profile defendants include former diplomats, politicians, lawyers, and media figures, some of whom have been outspoken critics of President Kais Saied. French public radio station France Inter this morning has a piece comparing how the Trump administration is acting toward Ukraine and Israel. Emma, walk us through the piece.
Pierre Esqui notes that Donald Trump's suspension of U.S. military to Ukraine coincides with yesterday's announcement by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio of a new delivery of $4 billion in military aid to Israel, which comes as the ceasefire in Gaza is on the verge of collapsing. Trump's brutality toward the Ukraine and its complacency toward Israel has only one explanation, says Esqui: the U.S. president's personal relationship with each leader, disdain for the not very malleable Zelensky, unconditional support for Netanyahu, who knows how to speak to the narcissist in the White House.
We have a piece from French economic daily Les Echos on how companies are becoming especially eager to hire retired generals to compete in an increasingly competitive global environment. To succeed in Trump's cutthroat commercial world, companies feel they will need to acquire skills more common in matters of war and peace than in traditional business operations.
And from Argentine daily Clarín, we have a piece on how Argentine fashion designers are shaking up the status quo with upcycling. Designers like Carola Besasso take old material that some might describe as rags and turn them into fashionable articles of clothing with just a fraction of the environmental impact.
We're closing things out today with our daily quiz question from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. A Maserati MC20 has broken a speed record there, clocking in at 197.7 miles per hour. Other Maseratis have gone that fast before, except that this one was what? Was it A, going backwards? Was it B, running on the Coca-Cola? C, driving on two side wheels? Or D, driverless? The correct answer is D. A Maserati MC20 has just set a self-driving record in Florida when the Italian supercar was modified to drive autonomously, reaching 197.7 miles per hour on a nearly 3-mile runway, beating the previous record of 192.8 miles per hour.
That's the latest from around the world. If you like this podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you could help us out with a follow, share, and a 5-star rating on your preferred podcasting platform. For more of the best of the international press, delivered exclusively in English, visit us at worldcrunch.com. We'll see you here tomorrow. À demain.